right. Well, good morning. Good morning. As Talk About It Live with Frank and Manny. So I want to say, hey, good morning to you there, Frank.
Hey, good morning, Manny. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all.
Good to see you all. And so as much as we are able to see you today, today is a pre-recorded broadcast. We're not going to be available this week, both Frank and I. So we're doing a pre-recorded broadcast for you all. And so we still got a lot to talk about. It's very relevant to what's happening in our world today and also our nation and even in the state of Texas. But we will be monitoring our comments on Tuesday, Taco Tuesday morning. So whatever comments you want to leave, go ahead and leave them there for us. And hopefully we can get to them as soon as possible. Maybe even answer your questions as the broadcast is going on.
Yeah, we'll be watching to see what we look like.
Yeah. And so maybe I'll make some comments and correct myself, or, hey, I disagree with you, Manny, or whatever, so things like that. And so anyway, we just had our taco, this morning. And so just to keep it, just to keep the tradition going, even though it's pre-recorded, we still had our taco this morning. So
I had bean and chorizo, man. That was actually pretty good. I might pick another one up on the way home.
Oh yeah. Well, I had my regular machacado. I never really had, like I said, I'm from the state of New Mexico, and over there we really don't have machacado, and so when I moved over here to Texas, the first time that I tasted a machacado taco, I always call them burritos because they're burritos to us.
They're different.
They're different, yeah. And so, but man,
same thing but different.
Yeah, same thing but different. But I fell in love with machacado, man, and because I like that, I guess, dried.
Yeah, it's like jerky kind of shredded beef. Machacado is shredded beef and it's dried.
Yep, exactly. And so I guess I just fell in love with that. So that's my favorite over here. Of course, actually, believe it or not, is the GBC, the famous GBCs over here in Del Rio, the guisado bean and cheese. Yeah, but my wife told me I got to stay away from those because it's,
Yeah, they're good though, man.
Oh man, they're awesome, bro. Yeah. But again, like I said, we got a lot to talk about today. There's so much stuff going on in this administration, Frank. We are only 8 months into this administration, and it is a failed administration.
It is. I was watching a very informative but disturbing video yesterday talking about China. And, China, Manny, is a superpower, wants to be the only superpower. And, they're a communist nation.
Yeah.
To them, people are just tools and puppets and, means to an end. And they're posing a real threat. They see Biden as very weak. And China might actually be thinking, Manny, that this is their time. And so, guys, we got to be praying. We have to be on the alert. It's not just about, what's going on here in our own country. The peace and the life we live. Sometimes it's real hard, folks, for folks, Manny, to really, connect the dots to their lives. But if we don't have freedom, if we don't have, a constitutionally minded people, our time is limited.
I agree. And Frank, it's interesting you say that because I think, me personally, people had asked me, well, what do you think about this, Afghanistan situation? I said, well, I think a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. But my concern is that the big winners out of all this is China and Russia.
Yeah, and Iran.
Yeah, and Iran. And because they all border Afghanistan, right? And especially China. I believe is going to become a big winner out of this because they're going to pay for all the equipment. They're going to buy all that equipment that was left behind, right? They're going to reverse engineer it. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
And they're going to use it against the United States in our interest.
Yeah, and there's certainly that aspect of it, the technology, the weaponry, man. I mean, all this equipment that they got a hold of, but there's a lot to be said, about influence. Position, and even though you can't grab it, bro. Our role in America, in a sense, we need a stable, strong, America in this world.
We do,
and so the Biden administration has undermined not just our nation here at home with our sovereignty, our borders, our economic situation. I mean, we went to the grocery store, Ida and I, yesterday, bro. And what we had to pay versus what we bought compared to the beginning to last year, it's crazy. It's crazy,
insane.
And folks that are limited incomes, like me, I'm on a pension. Thank God she works, but it's very concerning.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about it. It's happening, Manny, because of this president, this administration. The Democrats are in control. The socialists are running the show behind the scenes, or not even behind the scenes anymore. They're very blatant about what they want to do. And as Americans, we're suffering for it. So we're here, as just some Texans down here, on the border, wanting to bring attention to local issues. But, politics are local, but it's connected to the nation and the world even.
It is, and it affects all of us, from the highest level to the lowest level. And it amazes me so much so that Frank, that a lot of people, even in our little city of Del Rio, have no clue of what's happening in the world. It's amazing to me. I talk to people all the time, and they're like, I didn't know that was going on. I didn't know that was happening. Basically all you have to do is do your research. But the sad thing is that a lot of stuff that is happening, the mainstream media is not putting out.
It's not putting out, and so we get comments. People appreciate what we're doing. There's citizen journalists out there. There's a lot of folks that are using, the internet to broadcast. And something that I've started looking into recently, Manny, here, and I encourage everybody start looking at alternate forms of communication.
Right.
Start looking at. I'm actually thinking about getting a CB radio. My dad had one back in the 70s, bro.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually, a little bit excited about that. Looking at that, and I saw this YouTube video yesterday. I'll throw it up there, but there's 3 basic types of radios, and we'll just real quick talk about this. The little handheld walkie-talkies that maybe you can get a mile or two.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Just a very simple communication. Something like, say you got to run to Walmart here in Del Rio, in a small town. Hey, the line goes down, so you got some communication.
Right.
The other kind is like a shortwave radio, so that you can pick up transmission, see what's going on, see what's happening in the world.
Right.
In case internet goes down, or it's so controlled. I mean, they're pushing to control. They're pushing to shut down voices on the internet. And the third kind was like a CB radio.
Yeah.
Some people would say a ham radio, but with a ham radio, you need a license for that.
Yeah, you do.
CB, well, it's a citizens band radio.
It's amazing that it seems like we're going kind of backwards, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of things, and I don't know. It's just amazing to me, Frank. That a lot of us may be having to resort to that.
Yeah.
That now, like a while back, my wife got the feeling that she needed to buy some of those solar powered radios.
Oh yeah, nice.
And so we did. We bought some, and we bought some containers. And I'm not saying like I'm, escapism type
Prepper.
of guy, or prepper or anything like that, of course. But I think it's always good to have, especially with that freeze that we had, here in Texas last February, right?
Yeah.
Just basically we were without power for like days, like 4 or 5 days,
and it was a scary time. We had our 3 dogs, our fur babies, that were trying to keep alive, trying to keep ourselves alive. Some parts of town didn't have a problem. Where we're at, we didn't have power, and our cell phone service was we didn't have any at all.
Right.
And so we had one of those little crank type of radios. Just listen to the news, and it had a little flashlight on it.
Yeah.
And of course, but anyways, prepping. Some folks look on it negatively. Think about it, Manny. Just a few generations ago, 1 generation ago, I guess you could say, our grandparents relied on what they grew in a garden.
Oh yeah.
We were an agricultural type of society. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution, but before that, and that took time to spread out through rural America. Man. So. People relied on what they could raise on their farms, and what they could grow in gardens, herbs, vegetables, fruits.
And we've gone away from all that.
Self-reliance.
I mean, it's amazing to me. I mean, we have experts saying today that land is dying here in the United States now, because they're going straight from the field to the market. They're not giving the land of rest. The scriptures, it talks about giving the land of rest every 7 years. Israel still practices that, believe it or not. That's one of the reasons why they're so fertile. They're known as the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East, because it was barren, it was dry. I think even Mark Twain called it desolate.
Yeah.
But they started practicing what was taught to them in the scriptures in regards to giving the land of rest, and now they're the most fertile piece of land in the Middle East. It's amazing.
And as you say that, bro, I just I can't stop, but just think about the abiding glory of God, the Shekinah.
The Shekinah, yeah.
Yeah, man, just the abiding glory, presence, power, peace of God. And Israel is a blessed nation.
Right.
There's a lot of them that definitely are in need of Messiah.
Oh, yes.
But his promises are true, and they're blessed. Just following the principles of God, you're going to be blessed.
Oh, yeah.
You could be an atheist.
Yeah.
And if you follow the principles of God, you're going to be blessed, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. Well, that's your thing. But, yeah, so we're talking about these things, folks, understandably because of some of the things we see forming in our nation. And, developing, and the Biden administration, kind of goes circle to what you were talking about earlier, Manny, is that it's like they're hell-bent on destroying our country. And so we've got to be prepared, folks. We've got to be alert. And we have to be connecting, talking with others. Part of that certainly is, I guess where I went off on a little, bunny trail here is the communication aspect. And that was brought very starkly in mind because our son was in Mississippi. He's been in Mississippi for some training, one of our sons. And, so you start thinking about communication breakdowns and stuff like that. So anyways, you were gonna post a video here.
Yeah, I'm going to post a video here in a little bit, when we get to that talking point. I don't know if you saw it over the weekend. I was disgusted. I had to watch it. There's some things that I watch now that we have this program. Yeah. And it's something sometimes they're hard for me to watch because I just can't stand the lies, and so to sit through this Biden speech in regards to Afghanistan and his lies, and I think every point, Frank, that he made was lies. Yeah. He called it a success, but then he contradicts himself. A few sentences later, he says that every American was taken out, but then he goes and says 10% were left. He says that 100 plus are still there, but then you hear 5,000.
Yeah.
You're like, who knows? And
so, Manny, and this is going to bug some people, but how does a Hitler rise in Europe? Part of it's through the propaganda.
Oh, yes.
And part of it is through the lies, just like you're saying. And so there's a lot of folks that will hear something and they don't take the time to research. And so, obviously, we're slamming Biden here, but we know the facts. We know what's going on. We see it with our own eyes. Even the mainstream media was reporting on his failure. And part of the reason they're angry is because journalists were left behind.
Yeah. We still have Americans left behind over there. Yeah. American collaborators are being killed by Al-Qaeda. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is that Al-Qaeda is back. Even before the last American troops left Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda was already making an entrance to Afghanistan. ISIS is back. Yeah. They took responsibility for the suicide bombing that had happened and killed 13 members. There's some other things I want to talk about as well in regards to that as well. But I'm going to tell you, Frank, I'm angry. I'm very, very angry. Not only as an American citizen, but as a veteran.
Yeah.
As a veteran that you and I both served in the military, in the Army, and I'm a Desert Storm veteran. Served during Desert Storm, and so I have we have a perspective of what is supposed to happen, and what a commander-in-chief is supposed to do. And in my opinion, this commander-in-chief, he doesn't even deserve to be called commander-in-chief. He's abandoned Americans.
He's abandoned Americans, and the irony of it, man, is that this president is turning into everything that people accuse Trump of becoming.
Yes.
An authoritarian, liar. Well, I mean, it doesn't get more blatant than the president to stand up and say this is a success. I mean, and so what he's doing there, kind of mini circle back to why he's doing that is because people will believe that, and then they'll go out.
Yeah.
And they'll fight based on what they just heard and say, wow, well, he's my president, he's my leader in my party or whatever. And even though common sense, even though reality contradicts it. And so that's where we're at, where it's definitely a very ideologically divided country. But the thing about it, Manny, is that this is life and death.
It is life and death. And so the video that I want to play real quick is that it was a little portion during his speech, Frank, that really, a lot of what he said really bugged me, really got me angry. But this really got me angry, and I'll tell you why. First, he blames President Trump for Afghanistan, but then he goes on and he blames Americans for being stranded in Afghanistan and being basically it's an excuse for this president or Biden. I refuse to call him president, for Biden to abandon people, Americans, whose lives are in danger now. His lives are in danger. And so I'm going to play this clip real quick. And if you pay attention to the language that he's using, you'll see what I'm talking about. So let me go ahead and cue this up here, real quick, and we'll play it. Oops, got to turn up the volume.
With some intention to leave. Most of those who
Let me
remain.
rewind it here for you.
Yeah.
Now we believe that about 100 to 200 Americans remain in Afghanistan with some intention to leave. Most of those who remain are dual citizens, long-time residents who had early decided to stay because of their family roots in Afghanistan. The bottom line, 90% of Americans in Afghanistan who wanted to leave were able to leave. And for those remaining Americans, there is no deadline. We remain committed to get them out if they want to come out.
See that I'm sorry. Let me get us back here. I apologize for the sound real quick. I'm not as quick as I used to be. But that's what I'm talking about, Frank. If you paid attention to the lingo or the language that he's using there, he says 90% of Americans who wanted to leave, right? And then so he's okay with the other ones who basically wanted to stay.
Yeah.
It's and that's what I'm talking about. It's like he's blaming Americans, bro, for being stranded over there.
Well, and the fact of the matter is that I would think, short of maybe an operative that wants to stay behind to see what develops, because in war, in the intel community, you're probably going to leave, 1 or 2, 3 people behind just to gather intel, But the fact of the matter is, he is blaming, what you hear right there. He say, well, you want to leave, you get out. Look, I think the consensus is, pretty much everybody wanted to get out. You had Afghans that wanted to get out.
Oh yeah.
Because they know that this is the Taliban is a terrible group of people who remember their culture values death. You know, and we value life. They value death. They find glory and honor in killing.
Right. Well, look at Hamas. And Hamas is directly related to. Directly affiliated with Al Qaeda, right? And their motto is "We love death as much as Israel loves life."
Yeah.
And of course Hamas is intent on killing,
destroying
Israel and whatnot. But so just about every other terrorist group that's out there.
And so it just kind of brings it home, Manny, that that's why America is what America. It's our principles, it's our values, it's our world system, it's the way we view life and what we hold to be precious and dear.
Yeah.
And so you've got now a nation with armament and in connection with our sworn enemies, people that are actively trying to destroy our nation. That we can't forget. As we on the eve here of 9/11, right a few days from now, that they launched the attacks on us from foreign soil. So they don't have to be an American, let alone the fact that we got tens of thousands of people coming into our country we don't even know about.
Right.
And so in this world, you don't need to be, in a capital city anywhere in this nation to launch an attack. You can be around the world in some little hole in the ground doing it.
And we already know former Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott said not too long ago, a few weeks ago, that Islamic terrorists have been infiltrating this country in record numbers.
Yeah.
And so they basically come through the northern border because the northern border is basically unguarded, but we now know that they're coming through the southern border even more so. And folks, this border crisis, we can't forget there's a border crisis going on. Please do not think that, don't let this Afghanistan and everything else crisis that are happening distract you from the border crisis as well. I was talking to some agents yesterday, Frank, here in Del Rio sector. There were, this past 6 days, there was over 8,500 apprehensions.
Wow.
Just in the last 6 days in Del Rio sector. Right now in Del Rio station alone, there's over 400 in custody at the station. Plus, there's still some under the POE, the port of entry.
So it's not slowing down. There was folks that talked about the fact that the Supreme Court had mandated the Biden administration to re-implement Trump's remain in Mexico policy. As to whether that's working out or not, that's still to be seen. But you're right, and you know the thing about that, man. Even though people under the Remain in Mexico, policy, what was happening is people came across or were caught, they were processed for asylum, and returned to Mexico to wait for their hearing. When they realize that that's what's happening, all that's gonna transpire from that, man, is they're just gonna avoid Border Patrol. They're gonna avoid DPS. They'll just go around the sides. So you'll see more car chases. You'll see more people going cross country, trespassing property, destroying property, breaking into people's homes. You're going to see more of that. So it comes down to, we've been saying it over and over and over again. Mexico needs to participate in this, not just, okay, we'll hold them. If you return them, we'll let them stay here. Whatever.
Right.
No, Mexico needs to go and fight the cartels that are smuggling people. That's what Mexico needs to do.
Yes.
And we're spending all this taxpayer money here in America. Well, if they're truly our friends and they truly want to, maintain and preserve our economic, symbiotic relationship, well, then let's help them combat those transnational criminal organizations in Mexico. I mean, we've done it before.
Right.
We've gone into foreign nations.
Right.
Yeah, and people would say, hey, oh my God, Frank, here you're talking about another foreign. Well, look, this is our next door neighbor.
Yeah.
This is on our.
And they're not a good neighbor.
Yeah, they're not a good neighbor, and it's on our border.
Yeah.
I mean, and so. And there's other ways we could always help. Training, equipment, intelligence. Intel. There's other ways. I'm not necessarily talking about having boots in the ground in Mexico.
Right.
But anyways, we can't take our eyes off the crisis.
Right, but it's been proven before that if you go after their economy, Mexico's economy, they'll start enforcing their own immigration laws.
Yeah, they just need some a little bit of arm twisting.
Yeah, talking to people, brother, I still get contacted here by sources in the Border Patrol, and one of their talking with my sources, one of their biggest fears are the gotaways.
Yeah.
We get stats, on gotaways. I think this, last week like I said, over 8,500 apprehensions, but they only recorded, I think, like 1,000 plus gotaways, which is wrong. It's not a right stat. Yeah. And I'll tell you why it's not a right stat, because they're only counting basically the ones that they see on cameras getting away, and also the tracks that they see at the river or on the border. This happens all across the southern border. The way we used to track gotaways is we would go and find their footprints all over the place. We'd count the number, which is an approximate number, it's not an exact number. And then, of course, those we caught on cameras that we couldn't go and apprehend, those are counted as gotaways, right? But it's only what we're able to see. Yeah. What these agents are worried about is that it's the gotaways that we can't see. Yeah. So statistically speaking, for every alien that is apprehended, there's 1 to 5 that get away.
Yeah, that's just the best case guesstimation.
That's a best case scenario, right?
Yeah.
Right, and so they're worried about these. Like, we keep. I was talking to some. They're deploying. We have drones deployed. Now, and cameras out there in the brush and out in the field, and they're recording all these illegal aliens that are getting away because nobody can get to them. Right.
And not only that, bro, we've got ranchers, property owners that also have their cameras. So there's all kinds of footage out there of all these people that are just getting across, or they're coming across, and so it's nonstop. And what do we do when our government fails? The federal government fails. We have Governor Abbott that is perfectly content, I would say, with the attention being gone from the border. It was real hot and heavy for him there for a little while.
Yeah.
But now, with Afghanistan going on, the heat's gone off. Well, we can't allow that heat to go away. We need to turn up the heat.
Right.
And just keep reminding them. Folks reach out, Manny, and hey, Frank, we need to do this and we need to do this, organize this and organize that. Look, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
And we need, American patriots to stand up. I'm not talking about any violence here. What I'm talking about is, it's our First Amendment right, guaranteed under the Constitution, to peacefully assemble.
Right.
To make our grievances known to our elected officials.
Right.
And so that you don't need one person, running around, telling people to get involved, encouraging people. No, I mean, it has to be a bunch of us getting involved. And because this is a big state, it's a big country.
Right. And right now, a lot of the citizen reporters, Frank, that are out there, we basically know each other.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's a few.
It's a few.
Yeah.
It's a few.
There's a guy I really would like to meet someday, but Oscar El Blue, man, he's down in Mexico.
Wow.
And that's great. I wouldn't mind doing that. I was in Mexico the other day. I took some footage over there. I don't, man, that was the first time probably in like 15 years I've been over in Mexico. Wow. But Oscar El Blue, and you guys follow him, look for him. It's just very simple, Oscar EL Blue. And he's down there reporting on the stuff that's coming up to the border. It's not slowing down.
Right.
All you got to do is go look for him, and you'll see what he's reporting about. They're just, and I saw some video where they actually, they have it's kind of a counterpart to Border Patrol down there in Mexico. But anyways, these folks, as they're coming in, these people, as they're coming up, they started attacking him.
Wow.
They started going and throwing rocks at these officials in Mexico. So it's not, a friendly crowd that's coming up.
No.
And it's a big lie about, they're escaping, persecution and all this. That's just a lie. It's very convenient for them to say that. They've been coached in what to say.
And I was also talking to the sources, brother, and they're expressing to me that, they're not catching 1,000 per day right now. It's more like anywhere from 500 to 800 per day. But the ones that are avoiding apprehension here at the river, they're pulling off the trains, further away from the border, and assaults are going up.
Yeah.
Because the ones that they're pulling off the trains are basically the criminal aliens.
Yeah.
Who don't want to get caught. The smuggling cases that are trying to get around, because we don't have too many Mexicans that are being apprehended, here at the border. But further away from the border, they're apprehending quite a few Mexicans. Yeah. But a lot of them have the criminal backgrounds, and so they're assaulting agents now.
And there's a there's a give and take. Like for instance, down south, it's a bunch of what we would call the OTMs, other than Mexico, and that was a very traditional term for basically Central Americans, Nicaraguans, El Salvador, Guatemala. So down south, it's a lot of that. Up here in Del Rio and Laredo to a certain extent, but over here it's been a bunch of Haitians, Cubans, Venezuelans, some Africans. And so the thing about it, Manny, is that the Mexicans were being returned to Mexico under Title 42, which was, the CDC title, allowing them to be returned for pandemic reasons.
Yeah.
But those are the ones that I said, man, well, they were saying they're sending us back. Well, we're going to avoid being sent back. And those are the ones that are doing the end run, correction, trying to go around. And so they're the ones that are giving our agents a hard time.
Right.
They're getting violent. They're running. They're getting in these high-speed chases. I just saw a video of I'm not too sure how old it is, but it's got to be pretty recent, at least during the Biden administration, that these vehicles are trying to run and smash into vehicles and causing accidents.
Yeah, and that was a tactic way back in the 90s. Remember, they used to do that a lot, and now they're doing it again. These tactics really don't change. But I'm also understanding, Frank, is as well, is that, even though the Biden administration has basically been ordered to reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy, they're not doing it. They're dragging their feet.
That's what the agents are saying?
Yeah, that's what the agents are saying, that it's not happening. And what they're also having a problem with is that they're catching a lot of these OTMs, but because of the risk of COVID, they're basically bringing them across, they're apprehending them and taking them right back to the border. Back in the day, we used to wait until basically the end of shift, to go and take anybody and return anybody back, because what you're doing is if you take them back too early, you're gonna
have to process them again.
Process them again. They're gonna go across and come right back. Go across, come right back, and that's what's happening again right now. They're having that issue.
Yeah, and they'll keep trying until they can get by, get away, uncaught, undetected.
Yeah.
And or else there comes a point where they keep getting caught, and that's where the assaults take place.
That's when the assaults take place.
They get angry.
Right.
And they'll do that. And as far as these rulings, Manny, I mean, I hate to be so, I don't know, pragmatic, maybe.
Skeptical, but it's hard not to be skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, if this administration is lawless, they are trying to impose authoritarianism on our American citizens. Are they going to obey the law? Are they going to listen to what the Supreme Court says?
No, I don't think so.
They're not just arrogant, but they're driven.
Right.
They have an agenda, and it's to destroy America. All this stuff to them, they're just road bumps.
Oh yeah,
You know, they'll find a end around, or they'll just totally just disregard it.
There was a news clip not too long ago, Frank, that Biden was even. I saw it on the news. Biden was basically saying, I forgot what question they were asking, but he even said his answer was, "I don't know if it's constitutional, if it's constitutional or not, but we're going to try it." Basically is what he said, because they don't care. Yeah. They don't care. They're gonna come at it with everything they can, and if it's unconstitutional or not, let's see if it sticks.
Yeah, and the sad thing about it, Manny, is that we have people here in America, bro, that see no problem with that. They see no problem with it, with a government that is so heavy-handed, imposing their will, imposing their agenda on other Americans. But hey, there's a segment of our population that if it lines up with the way they see it and they believe it, they have no problem with other Americans losing their freedom, and
or even sacrificing their own.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll sacrifice their own. I saw some place, where somebody had posted, something to the effect of, why are you guys so? Why don't you want to keep the children safe? What's wrong with just doing what they tell you to do to keep the children safe? That's very short-sighted, Manny, because think long term. Right now, that's the excuse they're using, but there will come a day when they will come for your children.
Yes.
They'll come for them, and it'll be to enslave them or to use them in some God-forsaken, freaking horrible, perverted experiment of some kind. I mean, the reason I brought up Hitler earlier, bro, is because that demonic spirit, that evil spirit, still lives in our world today.
Oh yeah.
And just like it controlled, the kingdoms of old, made its way into modern history, and we're seeing it develop right here in our lifetime. I mean, how else do atrocities happen? It's the demonic evil spirit, and so the cultural conditioning, the social engineering that we're seeing happen, Manny, these are the same dynamics that were at work in the rise of Nazi Germany, bro.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and so why do we use it? Why do we refer to that? There's other been other horrible regimes in our history, but that's something that we can still, even though we may have not been alive, we can certainly look at that. It happened during this part of our human history.
But the sad part is, Frank, you talked to a lot of young people today. They have no clue that a Holocaust happened. They have no clue who Hitler was. Yeah. They have no clue what Nazism is, and yet they're calling. I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
Because I'm a conservative, I get called Nazi. I'm referred to as a Nazi. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not.
Man, it's sad, brother. It's sad. We have people in our country now that don't. You could ask them what are the colors in the United States flag. They couldn't tell you it's red, white, and blue.
Right.
I mean, they don't even know that, bro.
Yeah.
It's and so those are very useful to America's enemies, whether they're internal enemies or foreign enemies. People like that are very useful because they're just pawns. I mean, they talk about a greater good, some type of utopian society, whatever. The fact of the matter is there will always be elites. There will always be a ruling class.
Yeah.
And they will have their helpers, folks that may not be upper echelon type of leaders, but they're definitely, within the organization, within their system. And I say that to kind of segue into a very disturbing video I saw, and I don't know if you've seen it, of a staff sergeant in the Army, female. She's talking. She's gloating about you want martial law?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you martial law.
Yeah.
And when we come to your these guns aren't just pointed at our enemies; they'll be pointed at Americans if you don't do what we tell you.
Yeah, she had no problem. I remember seeing that video, and if
you can find it,
I'll try to find it. But the thing is that it amazed me because she had no problem killing Americans, bro. That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, she said it. We just as easily as we can point the weapon at others, we can point this weapon at Americans and make them comply. So if I tell you to get in your house, you will get in your house.
Yeah.
I mean, and so as we've been talking, Manny, there's a segment of America that. Christians, patriots, veterans, people who love America and who, would agree with the general, precepts of freedom, our Constitution, what it means to be an American, they would agree with that. But for some reason, it's kind of like there's a disconnect with this aspect of these mandates that are taking place in our country, Manny. They're not good for our future. They're not good for our freedoms.
No. And what's sad is, Frank, is that, like I said, people are willing to give up their freedoms for so-called peace and prosperity, and that's how the enemy. The Bible is very clear that the enemy masquerades as an angel of light. Yes. Right? He's going to offer peace and prosperity. Messiah himself said, "I did not come to bring peace, but I came to bring the sword." Right? I came to bring division, and it doesn't mean that the Messiah isn't the Prince of Peace. He is, but the reality is that this world is not full of peace. Right? And so the enemy is going to masquerade as an angel of light. He's going to bring peace. People are going to be saying peace and prosperity, and then the end will come. But in reality, Messiah goes on to say as well that people are going to turn against each other. Father against son. Daughter against mother, and whatnot. And we're seeing it in our time being played out. So the stage is being set, Frank. And of course, I agree with you. There's not a big utopian.
You looking for it?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now, and I just thought I had it.
Yeah. And as you're saying that peace and prosperity, Manny, you can see how it unfolds, how it develops, because you got folks that are saying, well, that's big picture stuff. I got to take care of my kids. I got my business to maintain here. I've got a church to keep running here. Life is busy. People get busy. People get involved in stuff like that, and it's very easy to start, ignoring it. Start, thinking about other things. But at the same time, we have to have an eye outward. I was referring earlier to the agricultural type of society our nation had. Before we had mass media, mass communication, they looked to the skies, bro. They had the almanacs that have been compiled, and then maybe it's under GI.
Yeah, it was letting me pull it up, and now for some reason it's not there.
Yeah. So anyways, they would look at the almanac. They studied the seasons, bro. They studied the weather, and so you had to look at the storm clouds brewing. You had to, be familiar with patterns. And so we were looking at the patterns that are developing right now in our society. We may have not been alive, during the rise of Nazi Germany. We have not been alive during, of course we weren't, as the Aztecs
right.
in Mexico were, pillaging smaller tribes and holding women captive and taking the men and sacrificing them and all that stuff. But there were patterns to that as kingdoms rise, as governments get bigger. They take on power and they become drunk with that power, and then you're going to have people, Manny, that play along to that. Have you been able to find it?
Yes. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah, you folks need to watch this. Just to, you may have already seen it, but for those of you that haven't.
Understand that if active duty military actually get deployed within the United States, that weapon is not just pointed at other people, other countries. It's pointed at you. If you do not get in your house when I tell you to, you become the enemy.
Again,
wow. All right. Let me
listen to that again, folks.
Let's try to cue it again here for everybody at home who's watching.
Understand that if active duty military actually get deployed within the United States, that weapon is not just pointed at other people, other countries. It's pointed at you. If you do not get in your house when I tell you to, you become the enemy.
Wow, bro. I can't. That's amazing, Frank. Yeah. Both you and I were in the Army. We served, over 25 years, 25 years in the Border Patrol, you 30 years. And bro, I can't imagine, in my mind, I can't imagine going to an American citizen's home and pointing my weapon at them, unless they're an enemy.
And the thing about it is, what warrants that in our country, man? I mean, really, what we had, riots in cities, just a couple of years ago, major riots, parts of communities burning down, people being murdered.
Right.
And the military wasn't called out there for that. But I tell you what, this military, this administration certainly, I don't think would be beyond using the military against American citizens.
Yeah, and from what I understand too, bro, I've been talking with people in the military as well. I've been getting calls because there's concerns about from military members, kind of asking me questions about, the vaccine mandate that's in the military now. And there's actually quite a few people in the military who don't want it, who are refusing to take it. I think the numbers are over 1.5 million right now and growing every day of people who don't want to take it, even within law enforcement. So there's still people within the military that I believe, are completely against this administration. It's just it's hard to say anything but what's sad is that I guarantee you she didn't get relieved of duty. I guarantee you she's still serving. But you had this Marine Corps lieutenant colonel, right, who stood up against the administration because of the way it was handled. Afghanistan was handled operationally, and he was relieved of duty. Yeah. Right, simply because he disagreed. Right, but this woman here, she's actually putting a threat, expressing a threat against American citizens that she will in fact carry out basically. Killings.
Yeah. She says it so flippantly, and that's what happens. When you've got a generation of Americans that have been, indoctrinated,
right?
And the left will say, well, you got right wingers, and I see it. You see, you'll never change right wingers' minds and stuff. Look, it is definitely left versus right, and at some point or another, Manny, folks are going to wake up. They're going to wake up and they're going to realize, holy crap, what those crazy right wingers, whatever they want to call us.
Yeah, but you're also going to have these people, Frank, who are conservatives and Republicans and name only moderate people who believe that nothing like this could happen to American citizens. I've talked with Holocaust survivors, brother, who lived in Nazi Germany, who were taken out of their homes into ghettos. One in particular, wonderful woman. I won't mention her name at this point in time, but when I talked with her, she expressed one of the big reasons that many Jews remained in Germany was because we felt that we were essential, right? That this wouldn't happen to us, right? And then next thing you know, it did. Many were affluent, many were rich. They believed that Germany needed their help with the economy, and yet they were willing to sacrifice to look away and even turn away on fellow Jews, turn their faces away from fellow Jews who were poor, who really didn't have much, who they believe themselves weren't essential. Right? The Nazis had a really good way of turning people against each other.
Yeah. And it's the playbook, and so we see that already. I mean, as you're saying that, remember when we were working in Border Patrol, we would get it would happen, seemingly every budget year, every budget time frame that the government was shut down.
Yes.
Because the parties were feuding about the budget. Anyways, so what was the language they used, bro? That everybody's going to be sent home except essential
personnel. Yeah.
And so that terminology, that ideology, folks, it permeates every aspect of our society. It's even in our churches. Heck, even homes are divided by left and right. And so what do we do as Americans? Well, we watch, we prepare, we get ready. We communicate with those that are like-minded. Even just as simple as, look, I mean, if the mandates get so crazy, they don't even want to let you go out and go to a grocery store. How are you going to eat, bro?
Yeah.
So that's where you got to be connected, know people, and prepare for that. And does it sound extreme? Not anymore. I mean, they're pushing it. There's already states that are pushing vaccination visas.
Yeah.
I mean, and so people refuse to. You see all the justification. Hey, we grew up with polio vaccines and all this other stuff. Yeah. It's very different, bro. COVID is it's a cold.
Yeah.
It comes from the family, that spawns those,
And we still have no cure. We still have no cure for the common cold.
Yeah, seasonal, repetitive, diseases, illness, whatever, bugs, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they come up.
Yeah.
They come up, they mutate. It's happened before. We've had variations, swine flu and, avian flu and all this kind of stuff.
I'm not saying that people aren't dying from COVID, but I just saw a good friend the other day, Chad McBroom, United States Border Patrol agent who was exposed to COVID, I believe on duty. I was talking to some agents the other day, Frank, and, we already confirmed a while back through dealing with the NGOs that thousands of COVID positive illegal aliens are being released into the communities, right, into the United States. But I also found out, Frank, that if illegal aliens test positive for COVID, they're keeping them in the stations for anywhere from 7 days to 14 days. These agents are not medical professionals, Frank.
Yeah.
There may be some EMTs there or whatnot to maybe monitor these illegal aliens, but these agents have to still feed them. They still have to deal with them. These aliens complain. They need to be moved sometimes from different areas. So these agents have to go and deal with them, right? And they're being exposed every single day, right, with these positive and then the reality, Frank, once they pass that 7 or 14 days supposed quarantine, they still have to deal with the laws that you can't hold people for a certain amount of time, so they have to release them. And whether they're positive or not, they don't know. They're being released, maybe sometimes still exhibiting or displaying symptoms of COVID, right, or whatever they have, and going and being released into the general population.
Yeah, and it's still. It's still very much ongoing. We can't forget the border. We can't, along with everything else that's going on. But, we have to be prepared and just, inform your family, talk to your family. There have been a lot of, you hear about folks that get into arguments and, stuff like that. And that's unfortunate. But, Manny, we're at a point in American history in our lifetime here where we certainly have to be alert, bro. There's some very ominous, dangerous things happening in our country.
Oh, of course, and that's why it's important also to make sure that you vote the right people into office. I was reading yesterday, Frank, that a new poll has come out. I really don't trust polls too much.
Yeah,
but I thought this one was pretty interesting. That 52% of people polled this last week, they actually want Biden to resign, but they're fearful because who's next in line? Is how do we what do they call her here on the border? Kamala,
Kamala.
And so
she's clueless, and maybe in that chain of there's a term for it, the succession order. Behind Kamala would then be Nancy Pelosi. Look, of those three, honestly, bro, the one that is really more in tune with what their agenda really is probably Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
Biden is, he's weakened at Biden's. He's pretty much a walking zombie.
Yeah.
Kamala is clueless.
She's clueless.
And so the one that's really probably more in tune is Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
She definitely knows more about what their intent is.
Yeah. And has no fear about what anybody says, bro, what anybody does, really.
Well, you were just saying she refused to allow the names of these fallen soldiers, service members be uttered in the House.
Yeah, the day before yesterday, Nancy Pelosi blocked GOP leaders from reading the names of the 13 slain U.S. troops that were killed in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Republican representatives right now are up in arms about it. Yeah. But it shows you, Frank, how much the Democratic Party dislikes America, how they do not support our troops, do not support our military. Look at Biden when the remains of our fallen had arrived in Maryland at the airport, right? I was watching an interview with one of the fathers, Darren Hoover, I believe his name. He said he was looking at Biden, and after every casket passed him, 13 of them, he looked at his watch every single time, bro. Yeah. Every single time. And
basically
now
thinking, when is this going to be over?
When is this going to end? Which is a stark contrast to when President Trump would go and stand and watch over the remains of the fallen coming out of the planes, rendering the salute, hand over his heart, very solemn. Yeah. Biden doesn't care. And then even with our world leaders, I don't know if you saw that when he was with the Prime Minister of Israel the other day, he basically fell asleep. I was going to pull the video up, but I don't have it right now. But he basically fell asleep. And that wasn't the biggest complaint from the Prime Minister of Israel. The biggest complaint was he tried to talk about China with Biden. Biden wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And then I don't know if you saw the other day, he even turned his back on citizens trying to ask him about Afghanistan. He turned his back on them, walked away.
Yeah. And you said there are definitely a couple of things I want to circle back to, but one of them, China. Don't let me forget the rhinos, bro. But China, is very, very much in the mix here, Manny. We don't. Yeah. Some people talk about it, but China, folks, is a serious threat, danger to our country, to the world.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I was listening, and I'll bring up some talking points here for a future show. But anyways, bro, they have been buying land up.
Yep, they're buying land up.
You know, they're buying seaports and, very, very, conniving and really just very smart about the way they've been doing it. You know, they give out loans.
Yeah.
And they give out loans to, corrupt countries, corrupt officials. So those loans are never going to get repaid. So guess what? The collateral was, here's this money to build up a seaport, make it, world-class seaport. Or you spent your money, you misspent the money, that seaport is now ours.
Right.
And, that's one example. But anyways, the other thing is the rhinos, Manny, they're out there blustering, and they're out there, spitting in the wind, sounding very, America's champions. But there's so many rhinos. Lead amongst them is Kevin McCarthy, that are right now, using this opportunity to sound off against Biden and do all this. But when they're in power, like in 2016 when Trump was president and we had the Senate and the House, they don't do anything.
No, they don't.
And they're pushing candidates, and incumbents that are going to play along. They're globalists.
Yeah.
They're globalists. They're I think honestly they're playing with fire. Maybe now they're realizing how dangerous the left is, or maybe they are in bed with the left.
Yeah.
But they have their puppets, and lead amongst the puppet makers there is Kevin McCarthy. And so, folks, you got to be wary of who this guy Kevin McCarthy. Research him. Research his background, his history. He's the minority leader for the Republican Party. He's a minority leader, but he's a sellout. And he is making sure that he's going to push like-minded people. One, he wants to become majority leader in case we ever get a majority back in the House.
Right.
He wants to be the majority leader, but also it's part of their plan. And I wouldn't be surprised that if you follow the thread back far enough, Manny, that they also are receiving money from China. China's buying out our politicians left and right.
And I think that's one of the big reasons why a lot of these rhinos couldn't stand President Trump either.
He was
exposing them, and he couldn't be bought.
Yeah.
He couldn't be bought, and we got a lot of these, these rhinos in office. We're running out of time here, Frank, but we got a lot to talk about here next week. And again, folks, this broadcast here is pre-recorded, but we are going to be monitoring comments, God willing, on Tuesday when this airs. And when it airs, on Taco Tuesday, and so please leave your comments and whatnot. We'll hopefully be able to monitor them and get back to you. We do have a website. I just want to again bring it up like I do all the time, every opportunity. TacoBoutItLive.com. Go and visit us over there. You can download our podcast. You can email us with any questions. We have a blog on there with a couple of articles as well. Hopefully we'll get some more articles going on. You can email us TacoBoutItLive@gmail.com as well. And again, folks, please visit our website. We're going to be on podcasts as well. Here, you can probably catch a podcast earlier than the broadcast. I'm going to put that up here as quickly as possible here today. So, I'll probably wait. We'll see.
Yeah.
So either or. So anyway, we're on Podbean. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music as well. We're on Rumble, and so hopefully we'll get some more platforms going on as well as we try to probably transition away from Facebook here eventually. Reason being, Frank, is because it's harder to reach people now.
Yeah, I think they're cracking down.
Yeah, they've restricted us in reaching people. There's some I used to be able to boost a lot of our posts. I can't do that anymore, really. So anyway, we're gonna be transitioning away from that. But folks, I appreciate you joining us. We really thank you so much for being a part of Talk About It Live with Frank and Manny. But also, it's important that you get out there. Make your voices heard. Educate people. Get educated. Do your research, and especially on these upcoming elections, right, Frank? I think it's going to be very, very important. Get the right people in there. But folks, thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate it. And Frank, if you have any closing words?
Yeah, just get close to God, folks. Break out that Bible. Read the Word of God. Read the Word of God with your spouse, with your children. Pray for them. Pray for our nation. Find like-minded believers, but spend time before the Lord. Go to His throne. Go into His presence, and just get prayed up. Get armored up. Get ready. Dark times are ahead. You're gonna need the wisdom, the strength, the power of God at work in your lives. and just like the word says, draw near to me, and I will draw near to you.
Yeah.
And so praise God for that promise. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you.
Amen. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate you again, and we'll say God bless you, God bless America, God bless Texas, and thank you so much.